everyone, it's Desiree, and here finally part 2 of the My Monthly Hero April 2018 monthly card kit. Yes, April, we're halfway through May, and I just got my May kit. Yes, we are slowly getting caught up. Alright, enough of that. Let's get going with card 6. I really enjoyed the papers, these textured papers that they had, like a mulberry paper. I did use one of the sentiments. I'm not even going to, I am no habla español, nada, very little. But I believe that says bailemos. Please correct me if I'm wrong, or if you're cracking up, I apologize. 2 semesters of Spanish. It got me a little bit, but I have forgotten it all, so I do apologize. So I took these papers, and of course, you know I have to tear them, because for those of you that have seen my videos before, you know I love tearing paper, and I'm going to layer them. The reason why I did that is I believe that the sentiment that I chose means dance. So to me, by taking these papers and ripping them the way that I did and layering them, it's like a skirt. As you spin and when you turn and how they separate if you have layers of a skirt on and all of that. It just, for some reason, that's what just came to my mind. So I'm going to place these on my panel, my design panel. I did use my favorite things, wonky stitch rectangle die. Of course, you knew that had to make an appearance. And I'm just going to trim the edges. I did use a double-sided tape to adhere these layers down to each other and down to the card. I'm then going to take the sentiment, and I'm going to use one of my Lawn Fawn Everyday Banner dies, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to keep both of the fishtails, because you guys know me, I start looking at where am I going with this. I started to put the foam squares on. I changed my mind because that's what I do. But again, I like to show you that, you know, look, we all don't look at something and say, yes, that's the card that I'm going to make. Again, I tend to go towards the left and somehow I end up on the right side. So it's a process and I want you to see that. Some may enjoy it, some may not. That's okay. I'm then using some of the ribbon that came with the monthly kit, and you guys know me again, I'm creating a bow. Wow, it's amazing. The things that we can do, and I can create a bow. So I'm going to set that just above where the panels are with a mini glue dot, and then I'm also, because it got crinkled the way that I had it stored, now I'm going to just manipulate the ends of the bow where I want them to go. And I'm just going to use some mini glue dots for that as well. I'm going to use my Nuvo liquid adhesive on the back of this panel. I'm going to throw it across my table, as you see, but it's okay. It all wipes up, and it landed almost on the card base, so we're good. So, but we keep on going. So that is card number 6. I think it's really pretty. It's very different. So for card number 7, again, to save some time, I did the stamping, I used the dies, I cut out my pieces, and I'm using all the cactuses and the pots that are in the stamp set. So you get 2 pots and 4 different cactuses. So I used my Favorite Things stitched wonky rectangle and my Lawn Fawn to put in the center. So I'm going to layer these back together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my vintage photo, and I'm using my Nuvo blending brushes. I love these brushes. They might be a little bit big, but boy, as you keep using them, they get better and better because they do just hold on to the ink. I do use these only for my distress inks. I do have the Tim Holtz blender brushes for my oxides. I do keep those 2 inks separate from each other. But you can see I used my broken china and my vintage photo for the top and the bottom. It's okay that they're not touching and I have that white line just very faintly in the center. I have a little piece of cutting mat from an old cutting mat that I just cut up, and I'm just going to put some little slits in the top of these flower pots so that I can put the cactuses or cacti in each of the pots so that, you know, that the pot didn't have to go on top. It looks like it's actually sitting in the pot. And I'm going to do that for each one of these. So you have 2 of the larger cactus and then 2 of the smaller. And what I used to color them, I did use my Faber-Castell colored pencils for those. So I'm going to prop up this frame, and I'm going to put that on my light blue 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 side folding card base. Usually it's a top folding, now it's a side folding. And I'm going to take the center panel and glue that directly to the inside. So I've got some dimension between the frame and the background. I'm going to use both foam squares and liquid adhesive to adhere my cactuses along the bottom. I'm going to put 3 to the left and I'm going to put 1 to the right. So it's not really off balance, but you know, again, 3s. You got to have a set of 3, even though I've got a set of 4 going on here. If I group 3 together, it kind of works for me. Again, it is pleasing to the eye when it comes to odd numbers. Even though some of us, we don't like odd numbers, we have to have an even number. So yeah, it's just the little quirks. So for this one, I'm going to, again, use the combination of foam squares and some liquid adhesive and set those down in place. You know, I said before, this stamp set was challenging for me. I won't say that my mind went blank like it did, I believe it was for their December kit. But once I got going with this, the cards were really quick. You can use these techniques on any cards, and that's, of course, that's the sentiment I chose, looking sharp. Of course, I've pulled out my Desiree iridescent sequins, and we're going to place those around. But what I found was I didn't use all of the stamps because some of them, you know, they didn't inspire me. But the ones that I did use, they were quick cards. So, you know, keep that in mind and use these techniques in others. So for the next card, again, my favorite things, wonky stitch rectangle. It made a huge comeback. And I'm going to stamp the sentiment Fiesta Time down in the bottom right-hand corner. I really like the piñata. At least that's what I turned it into. Was a piñata. And I used my Stampin' Up! Blends alcohol markers to do the coloring for that. I really do like them. They take the thinking out of alcohol marker coloring for me. I'm going to set a string in the back of the piñata, and I'm going to surround that with some foam squares. Now, when I picked this up, I realized the string was kind of to the bum. I didn't want it that far back to the bum, so we're just going to snip it. We don't need to tear anything apart. We're just going to snip it, and we're just going to shift the string over because there's still some double-sided tape there, and then we're just going to set another piece of foam square right on top of that, kind of like trapping it in so that it won't go anywhere. It worked. I grabbed these wonderful papers again. There's a theme through these last 5 cards with these papers. And these scissors I bought from Stampin' Up! A while ago. I don't even know if they still exist. But I believe you can get these at other places. And I just did a fringe. You can also do that with a single pair of scissors. You don't need to have these multiple blades. I find them cumbersome, just a little bit. But it was quick for me and figured, you know what? I hadn't used them yet. It made me use them. Pulled them out of my stash. So again, I'm just layering these papers and I'm going to frill them up. I'm going to make sure that they are securely adhered to my design panel. And again, I am using some double-sided tape, which is a little bit stronger than some of the other adhesives that I have. I am going to take these papers and I'm going to turn them over the top edge of my design panel. So that top edge will be covered by the fringe. Once I have this in place, now I'm going to put some double-sided tape in between each of these layers to secure them in place. We're just going to trim up the sides so that it can be even with the panel. So yeah, I did find this challenge. And again, it's not the fact, I mean, they're beautiful stamps, beautiful sentiments. It's not something that I would personally grab for. It doesn't mean that I can't create cards. So, you know, we look at it this way. We take the time and subscribed, so we should be able to make cards that fit us. And, you know, again, while these cards were tough, I really do like all 10 cards. So give it a try. I know a lot of people have been saying the same thing, that, you know, no, this isn't my taste and I'm just not sure what to do. Take some of these techniques and use them and see if you start rolling. Because that's usually what happens with me. But it is why this 10 card one kit did take a while to come out. Because I'll sit there and I will stare at that stamp set and say, okay, what can I do here? What can I teach? Because that's really my first foremost. I want to show you new ideas, new techniques, new ways to do something, to maybe do something that you already do, but do it a different way. Maybe it's easier. So that's my goal here. And I hope I'm succeeding a little bit. I believe I am. So that's our little fiesta time. Here again are the papers. So I used the dies. There's flowers in the stamp set, and there's dies that coordinate. So I used the flower dies on the paper. And what I've done is I've layered the 3 colors together in different variations. And then I'm pulling in my tools that do this. Now, these are Sculpey tools that I have. They're not specifically for paper. Now, if you've got a pen with a rounded edge, no points, but a rounded edge, you can do the same thing as this. You don't need that tool that's in my hand. Okay, so again, a pen with a roundy point, or a roundy point. Did I just say that? Yeah, I did. With a rounded edge, you can do the same thing. So I made all those flowers. I used one of my Lawn Fawn Stitch rectangle dies, one of the smaller ones. I stamped Hola, Hola, in the top right-hand corner. My Spanish is, I'm remembering it. And then I realized, you know what, I'm going to need more flowers. So I'm going to pull some more in. This time we're just going to do a couple layers. And we're going to do the same thing. We're just spinning them so that they crinkle up. Adds a lot of dimension. And we're going to use a lot of mini glue dots. And I'm just going to start adhering them down on the bottom left-hand corner. And we're just going to keep building it. I didn't know what this was going to look like and what this was going to do. I really like it. This is one of my favorites from the set. So once we have those adhered, now I adhered each of the paper layers also with glue dots. So you've got this sponginess that's going on, and it kind of picks up the papers a little bit. I pulled out my crushed grape and apple green Nouveau drops, and they will now be the centers of the flowers. So just randomly, some of them are going to have green centers, and the other ones, of course, are going to have purple centers. And then I'm also going to take those glue dots and bring them out around the sentiment that's up in the upper right-hand corner. So this was a lot of fun. The colors matched perfectly. And again, it's just another way to use the items that were in the kit. No, you don't have, maybe you don't have Nouveau drops. There's gems or anything else that you could use. You could even put a sequin in there. So for the last card for this series, I used the guitar. Again, this kit was an alcohol marker kit. I really got to play around with them. I'm using the sentiment, Feel the Music, of course, because what else with a guitar? And I just did one. So now, again, I used my Lawn Fawn Stitch Rectangle and used one of the smaller sizes. And I'm using my Antique Linen and Walnut Stain Distress Oxides. You knew they had to come in, right? All right. And I'm just placing the antique linen. I'm using my finger daubers because it's a small panel. It's not large. And now I'm coming in with the walnut stain, and I'm just going all over the place with it. I'm not looking to get a perfect blend on this. I don't want a perfect blend. I want it to be cloudy. I want it to be not perfect. I'm going to use my Distress Sprayer. And what was really cool is when I picked this up, the spots are actually gray. So I thought that was really different. I'm going to use my Vintage Photo ink, and I'm going to go around the outer edge just to give it a little bit more definition. And I'm propping this on my Ivory 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding card base. And we're going to pull out the sentiment and just judging, okay, where do I want this to go? Do I want it to go across the whole card? Wasn't quite sure, but I knew I wanted to fishtail the one end. And then I'm just going to go straight up and trim that because that's going to just come off the edge just a little bit. I'm going to use my Liquid Nouveau adhesive to put this straight down onto the design part. And then the same thing with the guitar. So the panel itself, the distress panel, that is propped up, and I did use Fun Foam for that. I'm really liking the idea of Fun Foam. Again, it's a lot cheaper than using all your double-sided foam tape. Use that for other things, but when it comes to propping up your panels, use the Fun Foam. It's a less expensive cost, and it's more stable. So let's take a look at these last 5 cards again. These are the close-ups. I do hope you enjoyed this series. I actually did have a lot of fun. Yes, it was challenging. But you know what? I like being challenged. So this one was actually fun. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. I would love to have you as part of my crafty or creative community, whatever we want to call it. If you have a question or comment, please, I encourage you to leave them down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All the products that I used outside of the kit will be listed down below as well in the video description. And yes, I was a little chatty Cathy in the video today, so I do apologize, but this is my way of being able to talk with you, have a conversation with you. I wish we could all sit in a room together. I think we would have an absolute blast. I hope you had a great day today, and I know tomorrow will be even better. But always remember, everyone, be creative.